Hello and welcome everyone. This is our another episode of the Beyond Business live series. Thank you so much for joining. This is our exclusive session and we're going to tell you who's the amazing guest we have today. And welcome with my business partner, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Today we talk about not only how we can earn money. Today we have a very important discussion with our expert. We talk about what about future your money. You should think about now, and that's ask our guest. And I am sure he can share with us his unique experience. Yes, Aziza.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that exciting insights for today's session, which we all know is focused on this Beyond Business Live series, which is about innovation, investment, and global synergy. Is part of our, or rather, it is an official LinkedIn live show in conjunction with our IIF International Investors Forum, which is happening on February the 23rd, bringing together influential speakers, investors and business leaders from the IIF panel. We are bringing you this series that is going to showcase our experts. And today's expert is an amazing human being, as I said, and also a very special person for IIF because he's our diamond sponsor and he has come together. And I'm going to invite him on stage as we call on the conversation, Mr. LOW KOK SEng. Thank you so much, Mr. Low, for joining us.
Hi. Thanks, Dr. Azeeza and Victoria for the introduction.
Thank you. And you are the founder of the LKS Private Wealth. And we're so delighted to introduce you. Let me give an official introduction of your expertise. You have won honors and awards. I mean, the list goes on from as early as, the last couple of years has been quite amazing with so many different accolades for you. And you are awarded the Chartered Financial Consultant Singapore, which is the professional designation, the premium designation in advanced financial planning, which you completed in a short span of 5 months. And you also hold the Institute of Banking and Finance Advanced Certification, graduated with a first class honors in business and finance. I think we can sit down here and read a lot about your accolade. And for those who would love to learn about this wonderful man who has given a lot of wonderful young men, because when I met you, I know you have a very young family, but such a wise knowledge with your wonderful organization and group of global consulting team that you've put together. So we're going to talk about that, your expertise, and also a lot of nuggets for the audience. So let's jump right in, shall we?
Yep.
Yes. So it's like, shoot, tell me what questions you have for me. So, Mr. Low, today's conversation is about mastering legacy planning strategies for sustainable wealth and wealth transfer, right? So, in your journey, can you share with us key strategies for individuals aiming to preserve and grow their wealth in today's economic climate?
Okay. Maybe I'll touch on the growing wealth portion first. So I think one important strategy that I usually do advise a lot of clients, and I see it work quite well for them over the years, is that generally spending time in the market is much better than trying to time the market specifically. So over my decade-long experience in the financial sector, I've had my fair share of clients who sometimes felt that they had certain insider information regarding certain investments or certain markets, and they wanted to maximize their gains. More often than not, these do not really turn out well. So I think overall, having a solid investment strategy with end goal in mind. Once you achieve the goal, then hey, it's time to cash out, time to move your monies to something that's less volatile, a little bit safer, and relook and retarget again. So I think that's more for the wealth growing portion. Another area about that I've experienced so far is that I've realized there's really no single asset class or industry that is definite to outperform all the other investments indefinitely. which is to say that it's always good to diversify your investments. I think it's very useful that there's this IIF that's actually sharing so many different investments from across various platforms, providing, of course, all our esteemed investors with all the options, different choices to invest in. Regarding preservation of wealth wise, this is something also very interesting and very unique because while it's important to grow the wealth, I've also often seen that if you do not look into the wealth preservation portion, all the wealth that sometimes you accumulate over the years can sometimes just disappear almost overnight. So by preservation, we can actually do certain strategies to actually ring fence your assets. By ring fencing, we actually mean, for example, you can actually protect it against various creditors because a lot of our high net worth, ultra high net worth investors are business owners, right? They run businesses. Naturally, they'll come with business liabilities and all that. So sometimes as your business grows, the more your wealth grows, your list of liabilities and creditors grow as well. So it's important to ring fence this portion to ensure that no matter what happens on the business end, whatever you've built over the years is still quite well protected for your loved ones, for your family, and all that. And I guess another important point is that I think the earlier you start doing the investments, the better, because of course, compounding is on your best friend. You start compounding as early as possible. Similarly, for the wealth preservation portion as well, the earlier you actually start planning for the wealth preservation, more options are open to you. Strategies and structures are also generally more flexible. You can play around with it along the way as well.
I love that. For those of us who are listening in, from the financial sector, who are more of the business side than the financial side, words like ring fencing is a new word for me today. So thanks for that. But compounding is a reminder for all of us. People undermine the compounding effect. And thanks for highlighting that. So relevant. Victoria, is there anything you want to add to this?
First of all, Mr. Laws, thank you for joining us today and share with us your unique experience. This is a really important topic for everyone, I think. Could you ask about what inheritance options are available under Singapore law? Because maybe somebody wants to know about it.
Inheritance law.
Yes.
Okay. So broadly, inheritance law in Singapore is mainly applicable to if you are Singapore tax resident or if you hold, of course, some Singapore investment assets. For example, very popular would be Singapore properties, that kind of stuff. So if, let's say, you were a foreigner, someone who lives outside of Singapore, but you've heard good things about Singapore as a financial hub, as a place to place your monies, we actually work quite a lot with many offshore persons from many different countries. So strategies may differ depending on where you're from, because tax laws in every country varies greatly. So firstly, it also differs whether you come from a country that's more common law based or civil law based. So these can affect inheritance issues. These can affect your potential tax liabilities and all that as well. They also affect not just where you are from, but also where your assets are held. So let's say someone from Singapore, they may hold assets maybe in Australia or the UK. Or China, for example. So depending on where your tax residency is and also where all your assets are spread out, and of course also how are you planning to eventually leave behind the various assets for all your beneficiaries and where their tax residencies are. So it can be a little bit complicated. But generally, I think Singapore is looked upon very favorably as somewhere to set up what we call a family office structure. So as a family office structure, sometimes it may also incorporate what we call a trust, a legal trust. So all these are set up to improve tax efficiency in terms of giving, because Singapore, one unique thing compared to many countries around the world is that Singapore has zero estate taxes, as of now at least. So that means that any assets that you own in Singapore, provided you don't have any other tax obligations elsewhere, technically 100% of whatever you leave behind goes entirely to your beneficiaries. So this includes all investments, your property and all that, everything's included as well. So because of that, having the trust structure in Singapore also works out quite favorably for many individuals, but of course, many other considerations as well.
Thank you so much. This is
You know,
really interesting.
yeah, these are very deep topics, and like what Mr.
Hmm.
said, and earlier on in our conversation we were having off the set, that it's so important to get in touch and get into one-to-one consultation so that it can be customized based on the requirements and the needs of the individuals, right? So thank you so much for that. And when it comes to the common challenges that currently faced by clients when it comes to legacy planning, what do you think they are? And I mean, what are those that you come across, and how do you guide them with these obstacles?
Okay, one common challenge, I think this one pertains more to Asians. So when I work with Indians or even mainland Chinese, a lot of them find it difficult to start a conversation with their loved ones on legacy planning. It gets a bit sensitive in the traditional Asian mindset. So to them, it's like, oh, it's a little bit taboo. If I start talking about it, it means I'm cursing myself to leave this earth earlier.
But
But I
don't
think
mind me
it's
asking.
necessary. Yep.
Don't mind asking before you get there. It's just
Yeah.
curious, but isn't it like, the Chinese have a very strong burial conversations very early, so it still is there.
Uh, I think it differs from family to family, but I think overall we're not quite there yet compared
Okay.
to when I speak to clients from the more westernized countries. They are a lot more progressive in the sense that families will actually sit down together even before any health issues surface, and they'll start discussing these are what I intend to leave behind and so on and so forth. Whereas Asian families, they usually try to skirt around the topic. um, they hope that the children naturally bring it up themselves so they don't have to start the conversation on their end. So, but what I do find is it's quite useful to have a third party experienced professional to actually facilitate and guide the conversation. So, because sometimes, like I usually work with the parents, right? So our team, when we speak to families, the parents usually have certain concerns, but they're a bit shy to bring up certain concerns to their children and to their loved ones. So they'll actually tell us first before the meeting. So during the meeting, we are the ones who bring it up. So it's, oh, have you thought about this point? Yeah. So on top of that, I think as the world gets more and more global, it's quite common for people to actually hold assets all over the world, right? You're not limited to holding assets just in your home country. So like just now from the previous question, we also mentioned that potential tax burdens can get quite complicated potentially, the more different countries you hold assets with. So it's also vital to maintain what we call a schedule of assets. So this is basically a list of all the assets that you own all around the world, so that the moment something goes south, all your beneficiaries know that, hey, that there's this list we can refer to. Otherwise, it would just be paying lawyers lots and lots of money to reach out to every single institution to try and find out what you own. On top of that as well, I think it's useful to actually think through some potential applicable scenarios. Usually when we have meetings with clients and their families, based on the background of the family, we also usually run through various situations and scenarios that could happen, potential conflicts that could arise. We raise it as a question and we open it up for discussion, and we'll try our best to understand how our clients' wishes are going to be like. So, and to guide them professionally to what's the best way to mediate these potential issues should they come up. Sorry, Dr. Azeeza, I think you muted.
I went with it, yeah. I think this is going to be very relevant for some of our attendees of the event, IIF, because they have a lot of wealth in all over, like lands and property.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we bring to our consciousness and awareness so
Mm.
that we can do something about it. And yeah, such a powerful conversation. By the way, I have had this conversation with my children. Like I told them exactly how it's gonna go, and it's really interesting that East Asian have this challenge. Yeah, so
It's a very
sensitive.
Yeah.
Is
sensitive topic. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
sensitive, especially to Asians.
yeah.
Not not especially for Asians. I work with European clients, and they share with me different types of their life scenario, and they
Ah,
share same information and their thoughts almost same like Asian people.
But honestly, I would feel like it would be difficult for people to speak about like parents, like about them rather than
yeah,
ourselves,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like what you
yeah,
gonna do?
definitely.
This is a great that we have a company like LKS, and they can help to
Please,
collaborate, can help to understand. Yes, because we should go to specialists, and they can help to of their details in this sensitive question.
absolutely. And that leads to our question on the significance of estate planning in achieving financial security for future generation. And I feel this is so important. So as we speak into this, maybe you can elaborate more on the significance for us.
Yeah, so I think definitely people are starting to realize that there's something that they can't run away from. Is very very real. So I think I read an article sometime last year. I think it's from CNBC. So the title was something along the lines of the baby boomers generation are set to pass on, I think, more than 60 over $70 trillion onto their children. So they call this the great wave of inheritance. And naturally, what does that mean for families that actually don't do their estate planning, right? Naturally, their descendants are going to be worse off because not everybody's going to start off on the same starting point. There will be those that um, upon receiving their inheritance, immediately they get to buy homes, they get to go into all the special, unique private equity investments and everything. They're given all these access, whereby people who don't have access to all these inheritance monies, they have to start really slogging from ground zero. So it creates a very uneven playing field. So it's all about a lot of times when clients approach us to start talking about estate planning, it's also they have this consideration in mind as well. It's like they want to make sure that their kids are not left behind just because they don't do any planning for them. And on top of determining the amounts and all that to leave behind, is also not it's also about sometimes people accumulate do accumulate certain amount of assets, significant assets. But if you don't do the proper planning, sometimes the assets don't flow properly to your loved ones. Increasingly, I think we are seeing, as the world progresses, there are a lot of couples that choose not to get married or to get married much later. Legally, this has implications as well on estate planning because most countries, if you're not married, uh, your assets don't naturally flow to your partner because there's no legal status, right? Just being
Mm,
together.
yeah.
So that has real world implications as well. And of course, with the rise of a lot of LGBT communities and all that, naturally, some countries like Singapore don't recognize marriages as well. So it's impossible to have legal marriage in certain countries. And this also has implications as well to estate planning because you have to meet so-called like think out of box to see what other structures or planning you need to do to ensure that your loved ones are well taken care of. On top of that, like I mentioned, all the tax implications and all that as well. So sometimes with improper planning, people often see that taxes can eat up most of their assets. For example, the UK actually charges estate duties 40%, anything above £325,000. So if you have huge amounts of assets like 10, 20 million pounds, essentially you're going to be paying close to 40% taxes on everything you own.
Work is
So
like in Europe, looks like Europe.
yeah, yeah. UK operates on that manner. On the US, it's on a tiered basis, similar to how Singapore pays income taxes. But we are looking at a similar story. And most of these countries, they require the beneficiaries to actually pay the tax departments the tax liabilities upfront before they're releasing the assets. So you don't really have a choice to say that, oh, can I try to sell off these assets first to pay off the liabilities? So you actually have to have cash ready to pay off those huge tax burdens.
What about marriage agreement?
Marriage agreement is not applicable in all countries. So, for example, Singapore is a country that doesn't recognize like prenups, postnups. Some countries do accept that. They do have some form of recognition for that. But for many countries that don't, then we have to find other ways to actually protect. It's very common that a lot of wealthy families, sometimes you don't know for sure, right? Maybe you're a very wealthy family, you have a very beautiful daughter. Somehow or another, there'll be this handsome guy that comes along that, is targeting the family wealth. It's a very common story. So it's also a very common concern within these families as well. They want to protect the family assets. They want to make sure that they want to provide for their loved ones, but at the same time, they don't want any outsiders who are just eyeing the family wealth to, just come in and, try and get a piece of it.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, I feel like this conversation can go on and on. There's so many different angles that we can look at it, and a lot of conversation can take off from there. So we're so grateful that you're part of IIF as our diamond sponsor. We want to ask you a very direct question. What got you to say yes to be part of this journey, and what do you have to say for people who wants to come for this session?
The journey, as in you mean in this industry?
Yes, no, also with IIF, the International Investors
IIF.
Forum.
Okay. So I think IIF has a very unique proposition in the sense that it really is a platform whereby it links so many different countries, reputable people from all these different countries together with the right platform, the right exposure. This is something that I see through my years of experience that not a lot of platforms provide the same thing. And this is something that I think my company and myself personally, our views align, I think, with what IIF is trying to achieve. So that's, I think, partially one reason why we're quite committed. We wanted to be the diamond sponsor. I think Dr. Azeeza was also very convincing in explaining to us the mission and what you're trying to do. So I think it's a good place to be, a good platform to have to support your investors and business growth.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again for saying that. We want to conclude by just sharing a little bit about LKS Private Wealth in your organization. You are going to be coming with international representation as well. You're not coming alone, just with you're bringing international representation and exposure for the space as well. So it's a very unique partnership we have here. So why don't you share a little bit about the organization and what it stands for? And I'm going to, before we conclude the session.
Okay. Yeah. So I think generally, I set up LKS Private Wealth basically for us to, we really focus on helping the ultra high net worth space. So our clients are typically at the bare minimum private bank level in Singapore, and of course all the non-Singapore banks as well. So what we do is actually we help to grow their monies. We look at various opportunities from as basic as your normal stocks, bonds, funds, ETFs and whatnot, to even the more niche things like hedge funds, private equity, private debt. And every once in a while, we can even do things like margin leverage for investments and all that as well. That's just on the investment space. A lot of our clients, like I mentioned, also tend to be business owners. So we also do management consultancy for their companies as well to help them craft employment benefits for their firm, retention strategies, how to structure their bonuses, and basically just trying to partner our clients to help both their own personal finance grow as well as their business grow as well. And we also have a huge network of various partners like lawyers, accountants, tax lawyers, tax advisors. It all comes together and give holistic advice to our clients, even like trust setups, family office, everything. So we are basically trying to be a one-stop shop for all these ultra high net worth clients to serve all their various needs, be it wealth or even protection like high net worth insurance and whatnot as well.
Fantastic. And why don't you also tell us how many you have representation in a few countries, and you have them coming to the IIF as well. Why don't you mention that too?
Yeah, so we do have staff from many different countries. So because we do have a lot of clients who are offshore based, like earlier that I mentioned. So we have Koreans, we have Korean staff, we have mainland Chinese, we have Indonesians as well with us, and yeah, we also do have quite a number of locals as well. But even for the locals staff that we also do handle international business quite a bit. So every one of them is experienced and able to handle professional inquiries regardless of which countries the clients may be from.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Low, for your time. Is there anything else you want to say before we close the session?
Uh, I think like I want to just further emphasize thank you to Dr. Azeeza as well as Victoria for inviting me to be part of this event. Looking forward to a great partnership together with you guys.
Yes, it's gonna continue past the event for next a couple of months and years to come as well. Thank you so much for the synergy. We look forward to serving you much more. And for the audience who are tuning in, thank you so much for listening in. And also, I think Victoria, that was a wealth of information, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your time, Mr. Law, today.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Azeeza.
everyone. And so we will be having the link in the chat group for you to, in the comment box, for you to register for the International Investors Forum. And we want to see you on February the 23rd. And of course, we are continuously bringing you more experts and the professionals who are coming for the event. So to meet up with Mr. Low and many such professionals and experts and industry leaders, join us on February the 23rd and also on the live series. The next one tomorrow. We have a couple more coming up this week, and with many of our professionals in the interview with us. So thank you once again, and we catch up with you in the next session.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.